Okay, what you're going to learn in this tutorial here is our player character. The animation sprites will be provided for you in the description. Basically, our character, as the character is out of the water, the character moves at normal speed. The character jumps and falls at normal speed. When the character jumps into the water, though, you can see the character slowly goes down into the water. The character also moves slower while they go through the water. The character can get to the ledge and jump out of the water as well. So this is what you're going to be learning today as you work your way through this tutorial. The character is faced towards the left and we're setting up to push towards the left. Remember, left is already working. Left works correctly, so we don't have to have the character flip because the character is facing to the left. So we're going to click no, then we're going to click OK. Now what's nice about this is we have this set up. We need to do the same thing for the right arrow key. So with this line going around here, and the reason why I'm telling you this is if I click, like you're like, why is he saying the blue line right here? See, if I click here, see how the line is going around this and not here? All right, so when I click here, this is different than clicking here. When I first started using Gdevelop, I was trying to do a tutorial and I had it here, and what I was trying to do didn't work. Just like now, you need to have this line here for this to work. See that? So now what we're going to do is we're just going to copy this information and paste this here. We're going to change this to right key is pressed, and then we're going to have this say flip player yes. So what we're going to do is right click here. Now notice I'm right clicking in this white right here. I'm going to click copy. I'm going to click here. So now I have that blue line there. Now I'm going to right click and select paste. So now we have this copied from here. The reason why that's nice is we can click here. We don't even have to go inside of this option. And then we can type in right. Gdevelop says this is what you want. That's what we want. So we're going to left click there. And then for this flip the player horizontally, activate flipping, we want this to be yes. Because remember, when we went right, that's when things need to be flipped. So now we have that set up. So that is good. Okay, so almost everything is done. We need to set up for the player jumping. So now we're going to go to this. This is a regular event. And the reason why this is separate from this, the reason why this is separate is we don't want this to go along with this players on the floor. These are underneath here because these are helped out by the fact that this first event says players on the floor. So we don't have to say that again and again and again for each one of these, right? We don't want this event to say players on the floor. We want this one to say players jumping. So we're going to click add condition. We're going to go to platform behavior. We're looking for add is jumping. We're going to click there. The object we want to work with is the player. So now we're going to click OK. So we have that set up. Now what we want to do is we want to set up an animation for jumping. So what we'll do is we'll click here. We'll right click, select copy. Come down here, hover right over these words right here. And the reason why we're hovering over the words where before we wanted to copy both of these things. Now we just want to copy, that. So we're going to hover right over these words, right click and select paste. We did this to save time because now we can click here and we can just change this word to jump. And with that, we should be good for setting up our character animations. Okay, so let's test this out. So we're going to click the preview button. Click that to maximize. So now when we push to the left, our character walks. We push to the right, our character walks. Character is even the idle position. Looks, it's facing the right direction. When we press the space bar, our character jumps. So we are good as far as our character animation. Okay, so now that we have all of this set up, I'm going to click here. So we have that blue line there. I'm going to go to right here, which is our add comment. I'm going to click here just so this is separated. This arrow here, if I click this, all of these things will be collapsed. We don't need to look at that now since we already have that done. I'm going to click here. And now I'm going to click here. So this is a new event. And for this event, what we're going to do is we're going to start to set up and bring in the objects we need to work as far as our water. Okay, we need to add 2 objects in. So we're going to go to new scene. So we're going to set up our art assets here. I'm going to move our player up. I'm going to move our ground to here. One of the ways we can have the same size and shape of an object is we can make sure we're left clicked on the object and then right click on the object, click copy, and then right click, click paste. So I want another object right here. Now these are instances, they're really not objects. These are instances of this ground. We need to bring in 2 objects. So we're going to click here. One of those is water. So we're going to go to sprite, left click here. We're going to name this water. There we go. Okay, so we're going to click the plus button here. Now we're going to go to edit with Piskel. We're going to click on our color here. We're going to go for some more, so our character is blue, more greenish type border. So when I click in here, by the way, I left click and drag seems to work a little better than just left clicking. I'm going to click here. I don't have to change the name here. I'm just doing it because it's fairly easy to do. So I'm going to click save. Okay, so as far as behaviors, we don't need any behaviors on this water. It is what it is. So now we're going to click apply. We're going to click here now. We're going to click another sprite. We're going to name this ladder. And then we're going to click the plus button, edit with Piskel. We're going to click on this color here. I'm going to go to a yellowish color. I'm going to click the paintbrush, click here. I'm going to name this ladder, click save, and then I'm going to click apply. Okay, so what we're going to do now with this water is we're going to left click on the water. We have that selected. Now we're going to left click and drag this out. What we're going to do is click this square right here, drag this so it's covering here. We want to have this so the land is above the water, the ground I mean. We're going to pull this down like this. Actually, before we do that, I want to click here, and the water, we want this to be, okay, we want the water to be covering everything else. So the water, set that for 8. I'm just picking 8. It's any, the closer you get to 1, the further you go into the background. If you like, you're imagining looking towards the screen, the higher you get up in the number, the closer you come towards the screen, if that makes sense to you. So yeah, we have this set for 8, so we're going to pull this down to cover this up. Okay, so now that we have this set up, what we're trying to do is we want to have the player jump into the water, and as the player jumps into the water, the player will move slower. The player will gravity will act different for the player. So with this set up, what we're going to do is click to new events, and now we're going to set up the programming for the water. I'm going to go to preview so you can see, so it makes sense, some of the things that we have to do. Okay, so this, our player should be standing. Oh, I think our player is not standing on there because of the water. So actually, let's go to new event. Let's take the water down some like that. Let's go to okay. Let's deal with that. Our player Oh, I see. This got changed to 8. Let's change this back to 2. So now let's click. Must have clicked on the wrong thing. There we go. Okay, so our water was fine. So let me click. Get that back up. Okay, what I wanted to show you was when I click the preview button, our player, when the player goes in the water, you can't see the player. Okay. Generally, the player is covered up. So what we want to do is we want to deal with that. So we're going to Okay, what you're going to learn in this tutorial here is our player character. The animation sprites will be provided for you in the description. Basically, our character, as the character is out of the water, the character moves at normal speed. The character jumps and falls at normal speed. When the character jumps into the water, though, you can see the character slowly goes down into the water. The character also moves slower while they go through the water. The character can get to the ledge and jump out of the water as well. So this is what you're going to be learning today as you work your way through this tutorial. Click here. The way things work here is this condition says when something happens, do this. So the condition says when, and then the action says what to do. If you want something to be done all the time, you leave this empty. What we want to do is set the opacity for the water. So what we're going to do is click Add Action. We're going to go to Sprite. We're going to go to Visibility. We're going to go to Change Sprite Opacity. The object that we want to work with is the water. The modification sign is equal. 0 equals not seeing the water at all. 255 means seeing the water totally. So what we want to do is click here and change this to 150. We'll then click OK. Now when we click play, we can see that our water is transparent. when our player goes in the water, the player, you can see the player. I was just saying the player went through the floor there, so it's kind of funny there. So I'm going to click here. Let's take this. Like that. I was kind of surprised the player went through. So that's what I'm thinking right here. I was thinking the player would stop at the bottom. I move this off to the side. Click here. Player walks. Oh, okay. Yeah, because the player has nothing to stand on. So what we'll do is we'll take this all the way across. Bring in our water like this, and our water has the code on it so that the water, you can see through it. Okay, so we have the water so that it's transparent. Now we need to have the effects change of the water. So what we want to do is have a new event. I'm going to click here, so this is blue. Click here to make another event. We need to have when the player collides with the water for something to happen. So that's what we need to tell Gdevelop. So we're going to click here. We're going to go to common conditions for all, collision. We're going to select player. Then we're going to select water. So we're saying when the player collides with the water, we want something to happen. And now we have to tell Gdevelop what we want to happen. So we want things to change. So what we're going to do is we're going to click Add Action. We're going to go down to Platform Behavior. Here we go. Options. What we want is we want to work with gravity. So it says change the gravity applied to an object. So that is the player. So then we're going to click equal to. And then for this setting, what we're going to do is we are going to set this to 200. And then I'm going to click OK. Okay, so why did I set this to 200? The regular gravity for the player for the platform is 1,000. Okay, so the regular gravity is 1,000. So the player would fall faster in the air. So now with the player being in collision with the water, with this, the regular being 1,000, us setting this to 200, we made it so when the player collides with the water, the player should fall a lot slower. So here's the player jumping. You can see how the player falls in the air. So now we'll have the player jump in the water. And what's happening is our player is being affected by the gravity all of the time. So the player is able to jump out of the water. So we don't want that. Okay, so how do we deal with that? Well, the way we deal with that is we need to, let me click this again. So our player's fallen here. That's interesting. Oh, I get it. Because, okay, so this is just gravity. We need falling speed as well. I was trying to think, like, what's going on. So what we need to do is we need to click here. So see we have the blue here. This is when the player is in collision with the water. We need to set things up so when the player is not in collision with the water. So I'm going to right click, select copy, left click here so we have this blue on both sides of here. Right click, then select paste. Okay, actually we are going to need this. We don't want this yet. So I'm going to delete these because I realize there's a more efficient way to do things. And basically what's going on is we're going to have to copy basically everything here to here. So we might as well do the work here and then just copy this whole thing right to here and then make the changes to here. So we set this to 200. The actual speed for this is 1,000. I know that because I have a notebook sitting right next to me. What we're going to do is we need gravity, we need the maximum falling speed, we need the maximum speed as well as the jump speed. So we need 3 more actions. So what we're going to do is right click, select copy, then we're going to hover right over these words, select paste. I'm right clicking and then left clicking paste, right clicking and then left clicking paste. All right. So for this, we want this to be maximum falling speed. So I'm going to left click here, go down, I'm going to select maximum falling speed. And then we're not going to be concerned about the numbers right now. We now need the maximum speed. So I'm going to left click here. I'm going to select maximum speed, then click OK. We now need the jump speed. So I'm going to left click here, scroll down, then I'm going to select the jump speed and then click OK. Okay, so now that we have the gravity speed, the maximum falling speed, the maximum speed as well as the jump speed, and we need these things because this is what's going to make the water seem like water. So what we want to do is copy this whole thing to here just to save us some time. So when I left click here, we have this blue line up here as well as here, showing that we have this whole thing selected. So we're going to right click here. When I say here, I mean near the bottom, right above that blue line. I'm going to click copy. Then I'm going to left click here so we have this blue line going around these 2 blocks here. Then I'm going to right click and select paste. So now we have all of this again here. And we need to do some changes here, but this saved us the time of having to do this again as well as this again. So the numbers that we need here, we have 200. We need this to be changed to 100. So we're going to click here. And we're changing these numbers so that when the player goes in the water, the falling speed, the maximum speed, the jump speed, as well as the gravity is changed. That's the main thing that makes the player seem like the player's in water. So we're going to change this to 100. And then for the jump speed, we want this to be at 200. So these are the settings for when the player is in collision with the water. We're going to double click here and we're going to click this invert condition. So this is going to basically be the settings for when the player is not in collision with the water. So we're going to click OK. Then we're going to put in these numbers. For the gravity, we want this to be 1,000. I'm looking at the notebook I have here. And these are the default settings, by the way. The maximum speed, we want this to be 700. At a maximum falling speed. The maximum speed of the player, we want this to be 250. The jump speed we want to be